Welcome to my fourth Skyrim mod tutorial. Today we're going to be making a quest where we actually use some custom AI scripts and to control one of the actors in the scene. So let's watch what happens. So I'm out here outside of Whiterun, and Balon Grey's out here.
Need something?
I talk to him.
Yes?
You're right. I have lost a very special skeever somewhere nearby. Do you think you could find him for me? So I can choose. I can say I don't want to help you right now. Oh, okay. Come back when you can. Let's say I come back to him later. I want to talk to him again.
Need something?
I can say, did you still need help finding your skeever? Yes. Will you help me find him? Really? Thank you. Here, take some of his favorite kind of cheese. It may help you find him. Okay. Now I'm going to go over here because I actually know where his skeever is. He's actually hiding out in a cabbage patch back here. So there's a skeever hanging out. So what I'm going to do is grab some cheese and drop it on the ground. I'm actually going to bring it back here. He knows he's actually following it, running at it. So I can drop it and he'll eat it. Now he's probably going to want some more, so I'm going to go ahead and pull out some more of the cheese. Now he turns, he sees it, he's going to start walking towards it. He'll get a little more hungry, he's going to start running at it. So I'm going to lead him back here over to Balon. By the 9, Theon! Stay still so I can change you back. You know what, Balon? I kinda liked being a skeever. You wouldn't happen to have any more of that cheese, would you? Alright, and so that's the entire quest. Let's see how we made it. Alright, to begin making this quest, we're going to start as usual by making the actors. We just need 2 actors. We need one for Theon and one from Balon Grey. So we're going to go to the Actors tab, and then the Actor subtree. Then right click and select New. First we'll make Balon, so we'll call him TQM Balon Grey. And we'll give him a name of Balon Grey. And then the short name of just Balon. And we're going to check him to be essential, so that he can't die, and unique, so there's only one of him in the world at any one time. We're going to change his race to be the Nord race. Then we're going to change his voice type to be male Nord. We need to give him some clothes, so go to the Inventory tab. Select for the default outfit. I'm going to give him Farm Clothes 01. That's all we need, so just click OK. Now we're going to right click and select New and make one for Theon, so TQM Theon Grey. And give him the name Theon Grey and the short name of Theon. He's also essential and unique, and we're going to change his race to be Nord as well, and give him the male Nord voice type also. Now go to the Inventory tab, we're giving him some clothes. I'm going to give him the Farm Clothes Outfit 02, so it looks a little bit different from his brother. And we click OK. Alright, so now we have actors created, we need to actually place them in the world. So in the world space here, we're going to place them outside of the city of Whiterun. So we're going to go to this Tamriel world space, and then when this loads, you can select here and just start typing in Whiterun. Oops, Whiterun, and there's that. So just open it up by double clicking it, and now we can, up here in the render window, we can zoom out to figure out where we are, and we're actually just south of Whiterun. Here's that bridge south of there. So we're going to scroll up here, and there is a windmill. So we're going to place them right outside this windmill. So to place them, go over to the object window, type in TQM, and there are actors. So we're going to drag in Balon, and then drag in Theon. Now I want to rotate them so they're facing away from the windmill. To do that, you can select the object and press W to bring up the rotate widget. And you can select what axis you want to rotate around. So I'm going to rotate around this axis. Just going to turn them a little bit that way. And then the same thing for Theon. Alright. Now press W to hide that widget. Alright, so the next thing we need to do is actually place a marker for where Theon should be when he's first turned into a skeever. So obviously he's not going to be right here when you meet him, otherwise his brother would have already found him. But in our quest scripts, we're actually going to teleport him away from Balon to this marker. So we're going to place that marker down here in this cabbage area. So to place it, go to the World Objects tree and select the Static subtree. And the filter for X marker. And so this is just a positional marker in the world that we can use. So we're going to drag it into here. I'm going to give it a name by double clicking. And I'm just going to call it TQM Theon Start marker. Then click OK. And the next thing we need to do is actually make a trigger region around Balon. And what happens is during the quest when we lead the skeever back towards Balon. When the skeever enters this trigger region, that's how we trigger the scene to occur where Balon turns Theon back into a human. So we're going to add that trigger region by selecting Balon. We're going to click this T box up here, and then just select New. I'm going to call it TQM Balon weight trigger. And click OK. It's going to bring up a little panel for changing the settings of the activator. We're going to leave them all the default settings. Just click OK. And you notice it's been added to the world, and there's this widget that appears with all these arrows on it. These arrows allow us to actually resize the trigger. So I'm going to make the region a little bit bigger, so there's some space around Balon that we had to lead him into. Now to actually position him in there, you can press the E key to bring up the transform widget. We're going to transform this widget so it's just over top of Balon. So now this is the area that when Theon enters this area, that's when the quest will actually progress. Okay, so that's all we need to do for now. Just save your work. Alright, so now that we have our actors placed in the world, we're going to actually start working on the quest itself. So this time go into the character tree, go to the quest subtree, then right click and select new. We're going to add a new quest and give the ID of TQM Quest 03. The quest name will be Skeever Fever, and we have a priority of 60, and then the type will be a side quest. You notice we don't have all of our options up here at the top. That's because the quest hasn't really been saved yet. So click the OK button to save it. Now filter again for TQM, and then find the quest and open it back up. Now we have all of our options. So the first thing we're going to do is actually add the quest stages that we need. So there's 5 stages in this case. First of all, stage 0, this is where the quest hasn't started yet. We'll set that as the startup stage. Then we're going to have a stage index 5, and this will be for where the player has already talked to Balon. Balon explained the situation about how he needs to find the skeever, but the player actually declined to do the quest at that time. Then we'll have an index of 10, and this stage will be where the player has accepted the quest and is currently looking for the skeever. Then we'll have a stage 20, which is where the skeever has been brought back into the trigger region. And then finally there's stage 30, which is after Theon has been turned back into a human by Balon and the quest actually completes. So we want to check this complete quest box down here, which is grayed out. So to enable it, go ahead and right click and select new in the log entry table, and then click the complete quest box. Alright, last thing we're going to do for this step is actually create our aliases. So we just have four aliases this time, so select new reference alias, and we're going to make one alias for Balon, and so give the alias name Balon, and check unique actor, and look for TQM Balon Grey. Then again go up to the alias name text field, hold down shift, press tab twice, and press enter to hit the OK button. Now add another new reference alias, and this one will be for Theon, so give the name Theon. Hit unique actor, and this time go to TQM Theon Grey. Go up here, shift tab, enter. Now we need to add one for the place where Balon or where Theon actually starts. So that's that little X marker that we placed in the cabbage patch. So I'm going to call this Theon Start, and this will actually be a specific reference fill type. So first go to your render window and pan over so that you can actually see the X marker. So there's the X marker that I placed earlier. Now go back to your reference alias window, click the select forced reference, then click the select reference in render window button, and then find it and double click on the X marker, and then make sure that's selected the right thing. So it says TQM Theon Start marker, so that's what I want, and click OK. That's all we need. So go up here, shift tab, enter. Now finally we need a reference to the trigger region, so hit new reference alias, and we're going to call this one Balon Trigger. And again, this is going to be a specific reference. So go back to your render window, pan over so where you can see the trigger region again, and then go back to this reference alias window, hit select forced reference, select reference render window, then double click on the trigger. And then make sure that it selected the TQM Balon weight trigger that we made earlier. Then click OK. Go up here, shift tab, enter, and then click OK and save your progress. Okay, so we have our quest set up and we have the aliases set up. The next thing we need to do is actually add a script to our quest that allows Balon to turn Theon into a skeever and then back again. So open up TQM Quest 03, go to the Scripts tab, then click the Add button. And when this pops up, double click the New Script option, and then change the name to TQM Quest 03 Script, and then click OK to create the script. So now we need to add some properties to the script. So click the Properties button, click Add Property. The first we're going to add is a reference alias to Thean. So go down here and select the reference alias for the type, and give the name Thean, then click OK. Now we need to add another property that points to Balon's alias. So go down here and select reference alias for the type again, and this time give the name Balon, and click OK. Now you notice the Creation Kit has actually automatically filled in these aliases for us, or these properties for us, because the property name matched a reference alias inside of our quest. So notice it already selected TQM Quest 03 and selected Thean because I called the property Thean, so it automatically knew that that's what I wanted. So now we need to add another property, and this time it's for the spell that Balon's going to cast on Thean. So this time select the spell type, change the name to Trans Spell for Transmogrify Spell, and click OK. Alright, now the last thing we need to add is the race that we want to turn Thean into. In my case, it's going to be a skeever. So I'm going to select the race as the type. I'll give the name skeever race. Now you can call it whatever you want, but since I call it skeever race as a property name, again, Creation Kit will know and will actually automatically fill this property for me with the skeever race object, which is of type race. So it already knew there's something called skeever race, and that's what I wanted. Alright, so go ahead and click OK. And the next thing we need to do is actually add the code for the script. So right click and select Edit Source. And in here, we actually need to keep track of Thean's original race before he was turned into a skeever. So I'm going to make a variable of type race, so type in race, and then the variable name will be called original Thean race. And then now the first thing we need to do is make a function that turns Thean into a skeever. So I'm going to call this function, and it'll be called Thean to skeever, then open close parentheses because it doesn't take any parameters. Then add the InFunction tag. Now in here, what we need to first do is store Thean's original race inside of this original Thean race variable. So do original Thean race equals Thean.getActorRef.getRace. So this getRace is a method that acts on the actor script and returns the race of the actor. And the next thing we need to do is set Thean to actually be the skeever race that we supplied. So do Thean.getActorRef.setRace skeever race. And again, notice that skeever race is just the property name. This could be named whatever we want, and just because it's called skeever race doesn't mean it has to be a skeever type. And also, I called the function just for Thean to skeever, just so it's a little easier when I'm writing my scripts that I know what's going on. And so what happens is this is going to set it to whatever value I stored in my skeever race property. So it doesn't necessarily need to be skeever, but in my case it will be. The next thing we need is add a function that turns Thean back into a human. So we'll call it function Thean to normal, open close parentheses, and then end function. Alright, so inside this function, all we need to do is first cast the spell that we added. So to do this, do trans spell, so that's the spell property that we've added, and use the cast method, so .cast. The first parameter this method gets is the source of the person who's actually casting this spell. So in this case, our source will be Balon, so we do Balon.getRef. And then the next parameter is the target of the spell, so who the spell should be targeted at. In this case, that would be Thean, so we do Thean.getRef, open close parentheses, and then close up the method call. So what we want to do now is, this will take a while. It will cast a spell, but there's a little projectile that will fire out from Balon's hand and then hit Thean. What we want to do is wait for a little bit before we turn Thean back into a human, so that it looks like the spell hit him and then he turned into a human. So to do this, we're just going to say utility.wait, and we're going to pass in 0.5. So we're going to wait just a half of a second, so it's just enough time for the projectile to hit Thean, and then we're going to turn Thean back into a human. So if you notice, this trans spell isn't actually doing anything. It's not actually turning Thean into, it's not the one doing the work of turning Thean back into a human. We're doing that in this script right here. So we're going to say Thean.getActorRef. Then we're going to use the setRace method like we did above, but this time we're going to pass in our original Thean race variable that we created earlier. So now, after we store it up here by turning Thean into a skeever, now we're using that variable and setting him back to whatever original race Thean was. Okay, So that's all the script needs. Just hit Control S to save, and then we'll compile and do some error checking. And hopefully that worked. And go ahead and close it, click OK, and then save your progress. Okay, now that we have our aliases set up, we need to actually start making the dialogue. So what we need to do is create a dialogue view. So open up TQ and Quest 03, go to the Dialogue Views tab. In the left area, right click and select New. I'll call it TQ and Quest 03 Dialogue View. Then click OK. Now select that in the right area, right click and select Create Branch. We'll call this TQ and Quest 03 Intro Branch. Then click OK. It's going to suggest a default name for the topic ID. Click OK again. Alright, so now open up, double click the topic. And now we need to type what the player is going to say to Balon. So we're going to say, "You look like you need some help." And then down here in the info tab, or info table, right click and select New. And now for Balon's response, he's going to say, "You're right. I have lost a very special skeever somewhere nearby. Do you think you could find him for me?" And this time we're going to give him an idle animation, so this will actually animate the actor while he's saying this line. So we're going to choose idle look far, and so that he just puts his hand over his eyes and kind of looks around when he says this. So click OK. Now we need to make sure that only Balon can say this line. So right click in the condition, select New. We're going to say get is alias ref, and it's going to default to alias the Balon alias, so that's okay. Click OK. And now the next thing, we only want him to say this line if the quest is at stage 0. So right click and select New, say Get Stage, and then we're going to choose our quest, so TQ and Quest 03, and then set the value to 0. So we only want this dialogue to be available when the quest hasn't been started yet. Alright, now we need to actually make sure we record the voice, so that's very important. So open up the response. Now Melnord appears because it saw that we filtered it down to only Balon can say this line. So with that selected, we can click the record button. I'm just going to record some silence and click done, and always click save. So if you don't see that Y there, then it has been saved, and that can cause a lot of issues in your quests. I'll record other voices later. And click OK, and then OK one more time. And then close out of this. Now what we need to do is actually add the topic where the player says, "Yes, I'll help you," and "No, I won't help you." So we're going to add a topic by right-clicking in the branch and selecting Add Topic. And now this time, the response is going to be, "Sure, I'll find him for you." And we need to change the ID up here to TQM Quest 03, and then we're going to call it TQM Quest 03 Confirm Topic. Alright, now down here in the info, right click and select New, and his response will be, "Really? Thank you. Here, take some of his favorite kind of cheese. It may help you find him." Alright, and now what we want to do is actually give an animation where he looks like he pulls something out of his pocket and hands it to you. So we're going to say the idle give animation. Click OK now. And now we need to make sure that only Balon can say this. So we're going to say get is alias ref Balon, and click OK. And then the next thing we need to do is mark this as goodbye. So that means that as soon as this line is said, you'll actually leave dialogue with Balon, so you won't be still interacting with him, because this is pretty much, "Here's this cheese, go find him," so now just leave, and you don't want to stay in dialogue after this point. I'm also going to record the voice, so I'll record some silence really quick. So I'll just select Melnord, hit record, click done, make sure to click the save button, and click OK. Now what we need to do is, after this line is said, we actually want to progress the quest to stage 10 because the player has accepted the quest and is ready to continue. So what we're going to do is, in the end script here, we're going to say get owning quest dot set stage. We're going to set it to stage 10. Then click compile here. You notice over here it's going to show up a little script fragment. And what we need to do is actually add a property so that we can give the player some cheese. We need to get a property that refers to the cheese object. So if you click the properties button now, sometimes you'll notice this error occurs. It won't have the add property button enabled. To fix this, click cancel, close out of the topic by clicking OK. Hit OK again. Now just reopen the whole topic again. And then open up the response again. And now select it and click properties, and hopefully the add property button will be enabled. So then click add property, And cheese is actually considered a potion. Select potion, give the name of cheese, and then click OK. And then we also need to give the number of pieces of cheese he's going to give the player. So we're going to add property. We're going to leave it as an int, so an integer value, and we're going to say num to give. And this will be the number of cheeses that Balon will give to the player. So select cheese, and we need to actually set it to the cheese value. So edit the value, and we're going to pick object, and it's actually called food cheese wedge 01. So that's the cheese we're going to use. The num to give, we're going to edit, and we're going to set it to 5. So he's actually going to give the player 5 cheeses. So now what we need to do is actually add the script that gives the player that many. So we're going to say game.getPlayer. We're going to use the addItem method. And we're going to pass it cheese, comma, num to give. And so the addItem, again, it takes the object that you want to give to the player, and then the number that you want to give them. So I'm saying give them a cheese, and give them however many num to gives is, so 5 of them. Click compile to make sure that worked. Okay, and then click OK. And then OK one more time. Alright, so now we need to actually add the decline topic, so where he says I can't help you right now. So right click, select add topic inside the branch. And then set the ID to TQNQuest03 decline topic. This time it will say I can't right now. And then we're going to right click in the info and select new. And his response will be, oh, okay, come back when you can. And we'll give him the a sad emotion, so we'll have a sad face. Click OK. Again, check the goodbye box, because after you say this, you want to leave dialogue. Also, add a condition that says get is alias ref. You want to say only Balon can say this line. Now what we need to do is set the stage to be 5 after this point. And so remember that earlier we said that stage 5 is for when Balon has already explained the whole quest line to the player. And that means next time the player goes back to talk to Balon, he won't re-explain that he needs help finding a skeever. He'll just ask for help again. So what we're going to do is actually progress this to 5. So down here in the end script, we're going to say get owning script, or get owning quest dot set stage, and we're going to set it to 5. So now after he has declined, we're just going to progress the stage to 5 for the quest. Again, open this up so we can record the dialogue. Select Mail Nord, hit record, click done, click save, make sure you see the Y's there, and click OK, and then click OK again. Okay, now close the whole topic. Now the next thing we need to do is actually add the dialogue where the player comes back to Balon after he's already had the whole skeever problem explained to him. So we're going to right click down here and create a new branch. And we'll call this TQNQuest03 return branch. And click OK. And then leave the default topic, that's fine. Open up the default topic. And then we're going to add the topic text, did you still need help finding your skeever? And then we're going to right click down here and add Balon's response. And he's going to say yes. Will you help me find him? And then we're going to add, we're going to say his emotion. He's surprised that you came back, let's say, and click OK. Now what we need to do is make sure that only Balon Grey can say it. So get is alias ref Balon equals 1. And also, we only want this dialogue option to be available when the player has already talked and then declined the quest offer originally. So we're going to add a new condition and set it to get stage. We'll get the stage of our quest, so TQNQuest03, and we're going to make sure that the quest is at stage 5. Alright. So now make sure you open it up and actually record the voice. So select Mail Nord, record, click done, save, OK. Close this, and then close this again. So now what we need to do is actually connect these dialogues, because they're all disconnected. So to do that, just select the dialogue that you want to connect to, and a little hand will pop up, and drag it over to the following dialogue. So first I'm going to connect the intro topic to the confirm topic, and I'm also going to connect it to the decline topic, so now the player can either confirm or decline after Balon says this line. Then I also want to connect this return branch up to the confirm and decline. So I'm going to drag it up to the confirm, let go, and then drag it to the decline and let go. Alright, that's all we need to do, so click OK and save your progress. Alright, so now that we have the dialogue created, the next thing we need to do is add the custom AI for Theon when he's a skeever to chase after cheese. So to do this, open up TQM Quest 03, go to the Quest Aliases tab, then open up the Theon alias. So what we're going to do now is actually add a custom AI package. So right click here and select New. Let's give it an ID of TQM Food Hunter. So now this time we're not going to use an existing package template. We're actually going to define our own AI procedure tree down here in this window. So to start, we need to start adding our first branch. So right click and select New Branch. And we're going to change this to Sequence. So what this means is all child nodes of a sequence branch are going to execute in order. You can also have the sequence branch repeat when complete by checking this box here, but we're not going to do that. First thing we need to do is actually allow the AI to look around for food in the area. So to do that, we're going to first add a new branch, and this will be of type simultaneous. What this means is that the child branches in this branch are going to execute at the same time, and as soon as one of them completes, this simultaneous branch will actually be considered complete as well, and it will exit. If you check this run until all children complete box, then only the simultaneous branch will only exit as soon as all the child branches are complete. But we're going to leave that unchecked as well. So right click here and add new procedure, and we'll add first the find procedure. So the find procedure allows the AI actor to look around for food or look around for any object in the area. In this case, though, it's a mental event, so it's not considered. So the actor himself will not run around looking for the objects. He'll just sort of stand there and gaze around and look for objects. What we want to do is actually have him act kind of naturally and kind of wander the area while he's waiting to find some cheese. So what we're going to do is also in the simultaneous branch, right-click and select New Procedure, and we're going to select the Sandbox Procedure. So hopefully you're familiar with the sandbox idea, and basically you mill around and not really do anything. So what's going to happen is the AI, when it's waiting to find the first piece of cheese, he's just going to hang out in the area that we place him in the world and mill about just doing nothing, while at the same time he's mentally looking for cheese in the area. Okay, so if you notice when we added these procedures, some fields popped up here in this package data area. These are fields that the user can specify for our package. So the first thing I added was a search location. And the reason for this is that down here, if we select the find procedure, in the right here, there's a search location parameter, and it's set it to be our search location value. So the idea is these values actually correspond to the fields up here. So let's give this a better name. So select the search location up here, and we'll change this to food location. So this is the location where we actually want to look for some food. And notice down here the value changed. Okay, so the food location is the area that we want the actor to look for food. In this case, we only want him to look around himself. So click this button here and change the object to near self. So that means he'll look around himself in a certain radius. Now radius 0 is not going to be very good because that means the food would have to be pretty much on top of his head to actually find it. So we'll set this to 512, which is a pretty good radius. Alright, next thing is this target selector field. So we look here, this is of type target selector. And this is basically how the what type of objects the AI is looking for in the find case. We want to set this to only the cheese type that Balon gave the player. So first of all, let's give it a more helpful name. We'll change the name to food type. Okay? And then we're going to click this none button here, and let's set it to be the actual cheese wedge that Balon gave the player. So in the filter, leave any object and change the filter to food cheese. This will filter down the object ID list here. Let's set it to food cheese wedge 01, which if you remember in the dialogue, that's the type of food that Balon gave the player. So if you change that in the dialogue, you need to change this value as well. So click OK. Now it's set to food cheese wedge 01, which is great. So next thing is there's an object list parameter, and this wasn't actually set to any value, but we do need to add it. So let's add a new field up here. Right click and select new, and we'll give it the name of food list, and set the type to be object list. So now what we can do is go down here and select this parameter, and to assign it to the value that's in this field, we just select it and then change its input data drop list and select food list. So the idea is when the find procedure runs, it's mentally looking around the area in the search location area, and it's selecting items by the target selector, so we're looking for just that cheese type. And as soon as it finds an item, it's going to shove a reference to it inside of this object list into our food list, which is perfect, and then we can later refer to this list to actually go and grab that item. There's two more parameters here, one for search on inventory and one for randomized list. We're actually going to set these both to false. So let's actually make a field here that is set to the constant bool. We'll just set it to be false all the time. So we're going to write up here the name. I'm going to set it to false constant, and then make sure to leave this value unchecked. And so now it's considered false. If we look at the value, it's false. The type is a bool, so that's perfect. So now we want to set this parameter to match up with this field. So we can select the parameter and change the input data to false constant, and change this one to false constant as well. So the randomized list just randomizes the orders of the objects that were placed in this object list, but we don't need to worry about that. So now let's move to our sandbox procedure. Let's look at the objects we have here. First of all is the location where the actor should sandbox around. And food location is perfect because we want him to just kind of hang out where he is currently. Next of all, it assigned allow eating, allow sleeping, all of these various flags to the very false constant, which is good because I don't want our skeever to sleep, eat, use idle markers or sit or anything like that. But we do want him to allow wandering. So let's add another field up here. Right click and select new. And we'll change the name to allow wandering and add an exclamation or a question mark so we know that's an option the person can set. And let's set this to be a bool, and we'll set it to true. Okay? Now we want to associate this parameter with this field. So again, you select the parameter and change the input data to our allow wandering field. So now allow wandering is actually enabled, and the user, if someone else wants to use our TQM Food Hunter AI package, they can now specify this to disable wandering if they don't want their AI actor to wander around. Alright, so we'll leave all the other things just how they are, so it's no big deal. So now what happens is, in our current tree, this simultaneous branch executes first because it's under the sequence branch, and so both the find and the sandbox happen at the same time. Now the problem with sandbox is it doesn't actually ever end, right? The AI actor will just continue to sandbox around and around and around, but find will end as soon as it has found some objects to fill in this object list. And that's perfect because as soon as one of these procedures ends, so does our simultaneous branch. And so that's perfect. Now what we can do is after we found these objects, we actually want to go grab them. So let's do that now. So on our main sequence branch, right click and select new procedure. And let's use the acquire procedure. So the acquire procedure actually takes the actor and makes him wander to some target and try to pick it up. Okay? So with it selected, we can see the first field is the target, and that's the target object that we want to pick up. And it's already set, by default, set it to our food list object, which was this object list. And that's perfect because that's the object list that's going to be filled as soon as the find procedure found some food. So now it's going to go and try to find one of the food objects that it put into this food list. The next thing is this num to acquire. So this is the number of items that we want to try to acquire. In this case, we only want to acquire one. So let's first add a field up here. So right click and select new. And we'll say num, we'll call it num food to acquire. And set the type to be int. We'll set the value to 1 because we just wanted to pick up one piece of cheese at a time. So now we need to associate this parameter with the field again. So right click or select the parameter, then go down here and select num food to acquire. And the next thing are some parameters we can set to allow stealing, pickpocketing, and killing. We're going to set these all to our false constant because we don't really want them to do any of those things. We don't want the skeever to go up and pickpocket the player. Okay? Or kill him, for that matter. So now, if you noticed in the video that when you first pull out the cheese, the skeever will start walking towards it, and after a few seconds, it will then start running towards it. So to do that, we actually need to add another branch here. So right-click on our sequence, we'll add a new branch. And we're going to also make this a simultaneous branch. And then what we're going to do is actually bring this procedure, this acquire procedure, into this. We want it to be a child of the simultaneous branch. So to do that, we can just hold and click and drag, and then drag it on top of our simultaneous branch. And now you notice it's a child of our simultaneous branch. So we're also going to add is a wait procedure. So right click on the simultaneous branch that we just added, add new procedure, and go down here and select wait, and click OK. So the wait procedure, this ends as soon as so many seconds have passed, and it completes successfully. So what we need to do is, if you notice, it added a parameter called actual seconds, and it added a field for us called actual seconds. We're going to change this to a better name. We're going to call it run delay. So this is the delay in seconds of how long we should wait before the skeever should actually start running towards the cheese. So we're going to set this to be 3. So for 3 seconds, he'll walk towards the food. After 3 seconds, he wants to start running towards the food. Okay, so we have that. The other thing is the stop movement parameter. And that says while you're waiting, should the actor stop moving? We don't want that to happen. We want to have this set to false because the acquire procedure will actually move the actor towards the cheese. If we set this to true, then while he's waiting, he wouldn't do anything. He would just stop moving. So we have it set to our false constant, so that's good. We want it to be false. Okay, so now after wait, so what happens here is he's going to start moving towards the cheese by the acquire procedure. And at the same time, this wait becomes a timer that's going to run for 3 seconds because we set our run delay to 3 seconds. As soon as 3 seconds pass, or the rat eats or acquires the cheese, then this simultaneous branch is considered complete and we'll move to the next one. So that what we can have is if he's running and the cheese is really far away and it takes him, or if he's walking towards the cheese and it takes more than 3 seconds to walk there, this wait procedure will actually end successfully, ending the simultaneous branch, and then what we want to do is actually make him run towards the cheese. So to do that, we're actually going to copy our existing acquire procedure, so right click it, select copy. Now select your sequence branch, right click and select paste. And now I added the acquire procedure here to the bottom of our sequence branch. Notice it kept all the fields intact. That's perfect because we want it to be the exact same acquire procedure as up here. But how do we make them actually start running towards the food? That's why we're going to use these flag overrides on the side here. We're going to check this preferred speed box, so press the box right there, and then leave it at the run option. So what that means is, by default, an AI actor has some sort of preferred speed, and what this does is it overrides that. As soon as we get to this procedure, it's going to make him start running towards the food, and that's perfect. That's exactly what we want. But now, how do we make him actually walk by default? Well, that's what you do up here in the Flags tab. So go to the Flags tab. First of all, we're going to clear all interrupt flags. So this makes it so the AI, while he's running this package, the actor will not do the hellos to player or any of these things. What we want to do is set the preferred speed. So check that box and select walk. So that means by default, he's just going to start walking towards the player. But as soon as it hits this procedure here, as soon as 3 seconds have passed and he wasn't able to acquire the cheese, it's going to go to this procedure and it's going to start running towards the cheese. Okay? Now finally, what happens is if he acquires the first cheese, we want him to keep looking for cheese after he acquires the first piece of cheese, but we don't want him to start sandboxing again, because otherwise what happens is the player puts a piece of cheese out in the ground, the rat will run towards the cheese, pick it up, and then start sandboxing. He may start walking away from the player. We want him to stay where he is so the player can slowly progress him back towards and coax him back towards Balon Grey. So to do that, we're going to add another branch to our main sequence branch. So right click and select new branch. And this time we're going to set it to the type of sequence. Okay? And the sequence branch here is basically going to be a repeat of what we've done in this step, this step, and this step, but we're not going to use the sandbox. We're just going to use the find. So we just stand still while he's looking for more cheese. Okay? And we're also going to check the repeat when complete. So what happens is the skeever will first look for some cheese while he's sandboxing around. As soon as he finds some, he's going to try to walk towards it and acquire it. If it takes longer than 3 seconds, it'll drop to here and start running towards it because we did the override here. Then finally he'll enter this repeated sequence where he's going to start looking again and stand still. So we want to pretty much use all of this. First of all, let's copy our find procedure and let's paste it into our sequence. Oops. I screwed that up. There we go. Copy twice. And delete the extra one. Alright, so now we have our sequence that starts. The first thing is to find, so we want him just to stand there and try to find more food. So that's why we don't use this sandbox thing like we did previously. Now we want him to do the exact same thing. We want him to start walking towards the food and then start running towards the food after 3 seconds. So we're just going to copy this tree, or this branch. Right click and select copy. Select our sequence branch, right click and select paste. And then we also want to copy this so he starts running after those 3 seconds. Right click, select copy. And then right click and select paste. So now what we see is as soon as he's grabbed the first piece of cheese, so this first 3 actions here, those are for getting the very first piece of cheese. As soon as those 3 are done, we've already acquired the first piece of cheese. So now what we want to do is acquire the second. So it's going to go into this find procedure, and he won't sandbox this time. He'll just try to find it. He'll stand still. Then he'll start walking towards it, and then he'll start running towards it. Okay, and so that actually completes our entire custom AI package. So go ahead and click OK. And then we're going to, down here, we're going to right click and add new. Or right click and select add. And we're going to add a do nothing package to the bottom of the stack. So this way he won't do anything when this AI package is actually running. So there's one last thing we need to do. We actually only want this food hunter package, so the cheese looking package, to only occur when the quest is at stage 10. So that's after the player has gone to talk to Balon and accepted the quest. So to do that, I open up the AI package again, and you want to go to the conditions tab. Then just right click and select new, and we're just going to add the condition get stage. Click the invalid box, choose TQM Quest 03, and get stage we'll set it equal to 10. Now, it will only run this AI package when it's currently at 10. So if you go up to the rat, if you go up to the skeever before you've entered stage 10 of the quest, he won't do anything. He won't respond to your cheese. He'll just stay there, because it's actually going to fall back on this do nothing package. Alright, so make sure to save. So go up to here, hold shift, press tab twice, press enter, and close that request, and save your progress. Okay, so now that we have Theon's AI created, the next thing you're going to do is actually add some scripts to Theon so that he progresses the stage as soon as he enters into the trigger. So let's open up TQM Quest 03. Let's go to the Quest Aliases tab. This time we're going to open up the alias for the Balon trigger. Okay. Now when this opens, we're going to add a new script to it. So up here, click Add. Let's add a new script. And we'll give it the name of TQM Quest 03 Trigger Script. Then click OK. Now we need to add a property to get a reference to Theon. So let's go ahead and add a property to our script by clicking the Properties button. Click the Add Property option, and scroll down and choose Reference Alias. And then for the name, we'll just call it Theon. And click OK. Alright, and you notice it automatically set it to Theon because it noticed that TQM Quest 03 has an alias called Theon, so that's perfect. Go ahead and click OK. Now let's edit the source of our script, so right click and select Edit Source. Now the only thing we need to do is respond to when the trigger is entered by Theon. So let's add our event, so it's event space on trigger enter. And it takes an object that is the object that entered in the trigger. So it's object reference AK action ref. And let's add the end event tag. So this event is called whenever an object enters into the trigger. And the object that entered into the trigger region was the AK action ref. So the first thing we want to do is make sure that that object was actually Theon. So we're going to add an if case. We're going to say if AK action ref equals Theon.getRef. Let's add our end if tag. Okay. Now in here, we're just going to set the owning quest stage to be 20. So we're going to say get owning quest dot set stage. Get owning quest dot set stage to 20. All right. Now the other thing we want to do is make sure that we're actually in stage 10 of the quest. So we're going to add an and to this if condition and say and get owning quest dot get stage equals 20 or equals 10. Alright, so this says when the trigger is entered, first of all make sure that the person who entered it was Theon and that the quest is currently at stage 20 or at stage 10, and if it is, we're just going to set the owning quest to stage 20. Alright, so that's all we need, so hit Control S to save and compile. And hopefully that works. Close it up, and then go up here, Shift Tab, Enter, close your quest, and save your progress. Alright, so if you remember earlier, in our quest script we had that trans spell that Balon casts on Theon. What we need to do is actually make that spell now. So to do this, we're going to copy an existing spell. So go down to the Magic tab, and then click on the spell. And we're going to filter for trans. There it is. Looking for this done transmogrify spell. What we're going to do is actually edit it. So right click and select edit. And we're going to give it the ID of TQM transmogrify. Okay. Now what we want to do is leave everything how it is for now. Just click OK. It's going to say, hey, you changed the ID. Would you like to create a new form? We want to say yes because we just want to make a copy of it. Alright, so now you notice if we open it back up, there's a magic effect here in this effects tab. We want to change this effect. So it's currently using the effect done transmogrify FF aimed. So we're going to find that and actually copy that effect as well. So it's okay, let's close that out. Let's go to the magic effect tree. And again, here's the done transmogrify FF aimed. So let's right click and select edit. And let's give this an ID of TQM transmogrify effect. Okay. So this is actually how the effect is set up. The first thing we want to do is this is just for the artwork. We don't want to have it do any damage or we don't actually want it to transmogrify Theon because we're handling that in our script. The first thing we want to do is uncheck this hostiles flag because that means we don't want to treat this attack as actually being a hostile attack. It's just going to cast, it's just for the artwork really. The next thing you want to do is you notice that there's a script here associated with the effect, and this script is what actually handles changing the race of the player when you cast this transmogrify spell, the normal one. We just want to remove this script. It's not part of this. We're just going to cast it for all the artwork that's specified here. So this actually gives it the transmogrify projectile that fires out and things like that. That's what all these fields specify. So everything else we can leave. So go ahead and click OK. It's going to say, do you want to create a new form? Yes, we do, because we just wanted to edit that other one. Alright, so now we need to associate our TQM transmogrify spell with this new effect. So let's go back to the spell tree. Let's open up TQM transmogrify. Let's open up this effect. And we just need to change this effect to be TQM transmogrify effect. And click OK. And then click OK. Alright, so that actually created our spell. We copied basically all of the artwork from the original transmogrify spell, but we removed all of its functionality. Now what we need to do is associate this spell inside of our quest. So let's go back up to a character, let's go to the quest tree, and let's open up our TQM Quest 03. And let's go to the Scripts tab, and now we can select our script, edit the properties. Now we need to set this trans spell property, so we edit the value. We're going to set it to TQM Transmogrify. That's perfect. Click OK. Click OK, and save your work. Okay, now that we have our spell made, we're actually going to create our final scene. So let's open up TQM Quest 03, go to the Scenes tab, let's right click here and select New. I'm going to call this TQM Quest 03 End Scene, and then click OK. With it selected, right click in the area and add a phase at the end. Now the only actors we need are Balon and Theon, so right click and select New Actor, add Balon, right click and select New Actor, and add Theon. So the first thing that happens is Balon says his lines. Let's add new action here. We'll add dialogue action. He's going to face the target, and he's going to head track Theon because he's talking to Theon. So as the info, let's add his dialogue line. So right click, select new. For the response text, he's just going to say, "By the 9." Capitalize 9, I guess. Theon. He's excited to see Theon. So we'll set his emotion type. Spell check will pop up. Close that. Set it to surprise. Say OK. First, let's add a condition here. Let's say get is alias ref Balon. That way, it'll actually filter down the voice options, so we can open up the text again. I'm just going to record in silence. Hit done. Click save. Click OK. Okay. Now, what we need to do is, after he says this line, we want him to actually turn Theon back into a human. So down here in the end, we're going to say get owning quest as TQM Quest 03 script. So we're going to cast the owning quest to the type of TQM Quest 03. And so now we can call our Theon to normal script. And so that will actually that'll make Balon cast his spell, cast the transmogrify spell, and turn Theon back to a human. So click compile to make sure that worked. Then go ahead and close. And then close this. Alright, so let's add another phase at the end. And what we're going to do is add a little delay here, so it gives time for that little scene where he shoots the magic at Theon and all that to play out. So we're going to add a new action timer. We'll set it to be 2 seconds. And then we'll add another phase at the end, and we'll just have Theon say a line. It's not too important. I'm just going to add, he's actually going to face Balon, so we'll say Balon as a head track target, and he'll face his target. Right click and select new here. And he's just going to say, you know, I kind of liked being a skeever. Okay. And we'll click OK. We'll add a new condition here. Get is alias ref. We'll set it to Theon so it filters down the voice types. Click OK. Open it back up. Record this in silence. Click save. Click OK. Alright. And now go ahead and close that and close that. So I'll probably embellish the dialogue later. It's not too big of a deal right now. Now I'm going to actually add a script at the end. So when the scene finishes, we want to progress the stage of the quest to 30, so that actually ends the quest. So we're going to hit the edit data button up here. And for the end fragment, we're just going to say get owning quest dot set stage and set it to 30. So this is something you've seen before. So make sure you compile and then click OK. And that actually completes our entire quest. So click OK. Our entire scene, not the whole quest. So save your progress. Okay, so now that we have our scene done, there's just one last step we need to do. We actually need to script the stages of the quest themselves to do what we need to do. So let's open up TQM Quest 03. Let's go to the Quest Stages tab. So at the very beginning, we actually need to teleport Theon from where we placed him in the world originally, so next to the windmill, to the cabbage patch. So what we're going to do is, with index 0 selected, right-click and select New so we can add a script. We need to change this kmyQuest variable to the tqmquest03 script. And then our script is going to be kmyQuest.TheonToSkeever. So now we're going to call that TheonToSkeever function initially. So this will turn Theon into a skeever and also store what original race he was before we started the quest. And then we're also going to say we need to teleport him. So we're going to do alias_Theon.getRef.moveTo. So the moveTo command again just teleports the object. And we're going to move him to where that alias start the X marker that we specify for the Theon start is. So we use alias Theon start.getRef. And so that's a reference to the X marker that we placed in the cabbage patch. So what this will do is first turn him into a skeever and store his old race. Again, the kmyQuest is just a variable. It's assigned to be tqmquest03, so we can call its functions. And then we're taking Theon's alias and moving him to that X marker that we placed in the cabbage patch. Hit compile. And then if you get errors here, it's probably complaining about that kmyQuest is undefined. Click OK. Just comment this out by adding a semicolon in the beginning. Click compile again. And what I do is generally, if I get these kind of errors, I just close out of the whole quest by clicking the OK button. And then when it closes, just open it back up, go back to the quest. Here's a script, and just uncomment it and try compiling again. Hopefully that works. Okay. Now the next thing we need to do is start the scene that we created earlier as soon as it gets to stage 20. Because remember, stage 20 starts as soon as Theon has been brought into that trigger zone. So let's right click here, select New. And what we're going to do is we're going to add a property for the final scene. So if you click the Properties button, if it pops up, that's great. Click Add Property. And then go down to the Scene tab, or Scene Type. And we'll call this Final Scene. And then click OK. It will create the property for us. Now select that property, hit the edit value. I want to set it to be our TQM Quest03 end scene that we created earlier. Click OK. And now all we need to do is actually just start that scene. So we do final scene.start. You remember, as soon as the scene completes, it's going to progress our stage to 30. So click compile here. And as soon as it progresses our quest to stage 30, then that actually just completes our entire quest. And then here's the completed quest thing. Alright, and so that wraps up our entire quest line. Now you may on your own want to add some objectives in between, so add an objective for stage 10 where it says go find the skeever, use the cheese to lure the skeever, something like that. Definitely something that would add to this. So go ahead and save your progress and let's test it out. Okay, so there are actually two more things we need to do. First of all, there's kind of an error, so go to your magic effect that you created earlier and just double check. So open up the TQM transmogrify effect and just double check that the script was actually removed, because what happened last time when I actually tried this was the script didn't get removed and actually crashed the game. So make sure that there's no more script here in the virus scripts part. And click OK to make sure that's saved. Finally, what we need to do is actually change Theon's name to not show up when he's the skeever. So to do that, we need to first create a message with his name. So it's going to right click in the message tree, select New. We'll call it TQM. We'll call it TQM Quest03 skeever name, and we'll just title it Balon's Skeever, and then click OK. Now what we need to do is actually apply this name to show up as the Theon's alias. So go to our quest again, TQM Quest03, open it up, go to the Quest Aliases tab, open up Theon, and then when that actually opens up, change the display name to TQM Quest03 Skeever name. And then finally what we need to do is clears name when removed. So check that box so when the quest is over, it will actually remove this the skeever name, so it will no longer say Balon Skeever when you target Theon once the quest is complete. So now you can do is go up to here, hit shift, press tab twice, press enter to save, and close your script. Now save, and now we can actually go test our game. Okay, so here's the final quest. I went back and I added some dialogue lines, actually recorded the dialogue.
Right.
I also made some additions to the scene, so we can talk to him. So if I say I can't help right now, it's going to set the quest to stage 5.
Come back when you can.
Then we come back to him, we talk to him again. It knows that we've already talked to him, and so it offers the did you still need help finding your skeever, so we can press that.
Yes.
Remember, it's going to go back to this confirm decline topics, and I can choose the confirm topic.
Really? Thank you.
So he gives me the cheese,
Here,
like in the
take some of
script,
his favorite kind of cheese.
and then
Fine.
sets the stage to 10. And so when the stage is set to 10, the
They
skeever's
say
AI
Helgen
package
got hit
starts.
by a
So I can go back here, I can drop the food.
One of those
His
horrors
find
comes
procedure
here.
and his
We'll be
sandbox
ready.
procedure are now active. He sees it, he goes to the acquire procedure, starts walking towards it, and then he'll pick it up. Now again, he's into that repeating sequence where he will just stay still and wait for cheese to appear. So we're going to drop some more cheese, and we can see he sees it, he finds it, starts acquiring it with a walk. The wait procedure ends, and he'll start running. Go to the next acquire where we override preferred speed, and he's going to start running towards it. Bring him back here into the trigger box,
By the 9.
and now that kicks off the
Ian.
scene.
Stay still so I can change you back.
And then Balon casts the magic spell that we made, and the
You know
scene
what,
continues.
Balon? I kind of liked being a skeever. You wouldn't happen to have any more of that cheese, would you?
And there's the final product.